It seems that it will take more time to find all the missing passengers, but once the search and rescue operations are completed, or once the families of the missing give their consent, the salvage of the sunken ferry will begin. There are already 5 salvage cranes on standby at the site, and a floating dock, which is described as a so-called moving shipyard, is preparing to be sent to the waters off Chindo Island as well. But many experts are saying that the salvage of the Sewol ferry will not be a simple task. Let's take a look at this next report to find out how the operation is expected to be carried out.
With families of missing passengers requesting officials to conclude search operations soon, discussion on how to salvage the wreckage is expected to gain more momentum. The large ferry weighs over 6,000 tons on its own, but with added weight, it's expected to exceed 10,000 tons. Salvaging the 7,900-ton ferry Ariake, which capsized off the coast of Japan in 2009, was a challenging operation because of the cargo that had shifted to one side, a similar situation with the Sewol ferry. It took over a year to salvage the ship with cranes after cutting it into 4 pieces. Then how about operations for the Sewol ferry? Currently, there are 5 cranes on standby near the accident site, including an 8,000-ton crane, the largest in the country. Floating docks are set to be brought in as well, but the salvage process is likely to face a rough start because the ferry now lies upside down. Salvaging the ship as is may cause damage to the upper levels of the vessel. The safest and most realistic method being considered is to use both cranes and floating docks at the same time. First, chains would go around the vessel, then lift bags filled with air would be installed to slowly put the ship on its right side up, while pulling it closer to the surface. Then, the floating docks can be taken underwater to support the vessel from below and push it up. The government continues to look through all options to identify the best method. It has requested cranes and barges from China while asking the Japanese shipbuilder that initially built the Sewol ferry for assistance.
So, looking at the case of the Japanese capsized ferry Ariake, it seems that salvaging the Sewol ferry will also take months, if not years. Now, for an expert's take on how the salvage operation will likely take place, we have Captain John Noble, a British marine salvage expert, joining us on the phone. Thanks for your time this morning, Captain.
Good morning.
So, first of all, could you walk us through the expected procedures of salvaging the Sewol ferry?
Yes, the first thing that they will do, and they've probably already started, is doing a detailed salvage survey of the upturned hull on the bottom. And when that's completed, they will then meet with the various authorities and decide what is the most efficient way of salvaging or removing the wreck of the hull. And I note that there are plenty of cranes in the vicinity, so there is more than enough lifting capacity. They may decide to make the ship upright whilst she is still on the seabed. That would then make lifting easier and transferring the ship onto the submersible dock much more easy.
Now, you talked about the submersible dock, but many experts here in Korea are saying that using the floating dock will be the best way to lift the ship. But Korea hasn't been using this method in the past. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm inclined to agree that it is probably the best way of doing it. And whilst there may not be the expertise in Korea, there is international expertise, and interestingly, this is the method they intend to use for phase 2 of the Costa Concordia salvage. So there is a precedent. It's not easy. Please don't misunderstand me. This is not an easy operation, but it is within. If there is international help and experience available, that might assist the Korean salvage company in achieving its aim.
In line with the previous question, now, considering the size or weight of the ship and how it has completely flipped over as it sank, what kind of special equipment or personnel are needed in the salvage?
Well, ideally, you would want people there who have done this sort of thing before. And I know internationally there are people available, and I'm quite sure the Korean salvage company and other Korean experts would call upon that aid, because it would certainly make the operation much safer and much more certain to be successful.
And as we saw in the report, it took the Japanese capsized ship about a year to be salvaged. And in the case of the torpedo South Korean warship Cheonan, which weighed only about a sixth of the Sewol ferry, it took about a month to pull it out of the water. So how long do you think will it take to bring the ferry up to the surface, and what could be some potential obstacles?
Well, much of the question of how long it will take really depends on what resources are going to be used and maintained on site. And if the weather is good and things go well, it could be done within 1 or 2 months. But much depends on the approach taken in Korea with this very, very sensitive wreck. So there are other issues yet to be considered. The purely practical point of view, with the resources that are currently there, 1 to 2 months is not looking unrealistic.
Right, so the weather conditions will also be a big factor in the salvage operation as well, and it seems that the salvage operation should be planned out thoroughly in advance so that there will be no hesitation or confusion in what will become a lengthy procedure. Well, we thank you for your insight this morning, Captain.
Thank you very much.